My wife texted she needed space while vacationing. I sold the house quietly, triggered a trust clause, and left her locked out of our life forever. The first thing I heard that morning wasn't the coffee pot gurgling or birds outside, just the ping of a message slicing through silence like a scalpel through skin. I flipped the phone over, still half asleep, expecting something mundane. Instead, 7 words detonated 33 years of marriage. We need space. I'm staying another week. I read it once, then again. Each syllable landed like a soft slap, but it was the absence of punctuation that hit hardest. No greeting, no signature, not even a question mark, just a verdict. I didn't drop the phone. I didn't scream. I didn't rush to reply. I just stood there holding it. The coffee dripped behind me like some kind of slow, sarcastic applause. Valerie, my wife of over 3 decades, was in Cabo, supposedly with women from her yoga class. Self-care, she called it. Refilling my cup. Apparently, she decided to do it with tequila and sunshine. Now, with space too, whatever that meant. And here's the thing. I wasn't shocked. Not really. I opened the bottom drawer of the file cabinet in the den, pulled out a slim blue folder labeled Title and Transfer. I had prepared it years ago, not out of paranoia but out of habit. You don't spend a lifetime in inspection work without keeping your paperwork airtight, just in case. This wasn't rage. This wasn't heartbreak. It was deployment. A different kind of man might have driven to the airport, demanded answers, begged for love. I called my realtor instead. By the way, if this already has you gritting your teeth or nodding quietly, do one small thing for me. Subscribe. I know 98% of folks scroll through these stories without hitting that button, but it fuels our whole team. And trust me, this one's just getting started. Anyway, Valerie didn't follow up. Didn't ask if I got the message. Didn't check on anything back home. Didn't ask how the dog was, though. We didn't have one. Not anymore. She never noticed. I stopped mentioning him. I made 2 calls. The realtor I'd used for my cousin's estate, a moving company I had bookmarked out of curiosity last winter. Funny how the subconscious preps you for things before your pride catches on. By noon, the ball was rolling. No drama, no back and forth, just deadlines and signatures. And while she was sipping overpriced cocktails, I was marking boxes, his and hers. Guess which pile was heavier? But the weirdest thing, the part one didn't expect, was the calm. It wasn't numbness. It wasn't some zen detachment. It was clarity, cold, focused, almost surgical. I walked past the wedding photo on the wall, us in Tahoe, 1991, and didn't even pause. I didn't have to. I'd already packed the memories I needed. Everything else was clutter. I boxed up her yoga mats, essential oils, faux crystal wine stoppers, and that ridiculous brass flamingo she brought home from Sedona. Each item made me laugh a little louder. I was polite with the movers, tipped extra, labeled everything clearly. There was no need to hide what was happening. No shouting match, no apology letters, just one man respecting a message for exactly what it said. She wanted space, and I was going to give her all of it. The odd part, there was no moment where I debated texting her back, not even a draft that sat unsent. My thumbs never hovered, my jaw never clenched. She said she needed space. And I'd spent so many years not taking up space in my own damn house that honoring her wish felt like muscle memory. No questions, no counter-arguments, no guilt. I turned off my phone, set it face down, and opened the notepad by the fridge, the one we used for groceries and chore reminders. Wrote 3 items. Call Marcus, realtor. Schedule movers, shred photo albums. That third one sat there like a dare. I left it uncrossed. By noon, Marcus had already found an interested couple, newlyweds from Glendale. Offered a cash deal, wanted a quick close. I told him I'd be out in 6 days. That's unusually fast, he said. That's what she wanted. I replied, then asked for electronic forms. No small talk. I didn't owe the world an explanation. I called a moving service next, told them I needed 2 trucks. One to a storage unit I'd already reserved, the other headed up north. They said Saturday worked. I said perfect. Valerie, for all her spiritual mantras and healing stones, never once asked what I was up to. Never noticed the banking notification stopped. Never questioned why Karen hadn't texted in 2 weeks. She'd gone from we to me like it was some kind of enlightenment. Left me to wander our house with its peeling baseboards and crooked cabinet handles. And remember how many of those imperfections she once called homey? Now they were just blemishes, leftovers. And I wasn't angry about it. That was the worst part. I was done being angry. The day she left for Cabo, she didn't kiss me goodbye. She tapped her phone to the Uber app, adjusted her sunglasses, and said, "Don't forget to water the succulents." That was her version of closure. So, I began giving her mine. I walked room to room and sorted everything with military precision. Her closet, 3 suitcases, mine, 1 duffel, and a garment bag. I donated her books. Most of them on red, those overly complicated cookbooks with pictures of meals she never made. Dumped them in a donation bin by the grocery store. I canceled cable, transferred utilities, updated my address with the post office online. Old habits die hard. She wouldn't know because she didn't ask, and I wouldn't tell her because there was nothing left to tell. I stood in the garage that evening, looking at her collection of upcycled art projects and half-finished DIYs, and finally tossed a lot. Even the garden Buddha, the one that sat crooked because she insisted imperfection was beautiful. I didn't feel satisfaction, I felt efficient. It was as if my grief had put on a uniform and clocked in. No lunch breaks, no union, just task after task after task. I even started sleeping in the guest room, not out of spite, but because I didn't want to dream in a bed where the other side had gone cold years ago. I laid flat on that twin mattress, staring at the ceiling fans spinning above like a broken compass, and I realized something. She didn't just ask for space. She'd been building it for years. One silent dinner at a time. One, I'm tired after another. One unanswered laugh across the room while she scrolled on her phone. So, no, there would be no final talk, no dramatic confrontation in an airport terminal. No, we can work this out. Only silence, a heavy, deliberate silence. And it was finally mine. That afternoon, while I was wrapping the last of her yoga trophies in newspaper, yes, she had actual trophies for mindfulness. Go figure. My phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I hadn't turned it back on for any specific reason. Maybe I wanted to confirm the moving schedule. Maybe I was hoping Karen had replied to the message I sent her about where to forward mail. Instead, it was Valerie's name, but not a call, not even a text. She'd posted Instagram public, a photo. She was in a red bikini. I didn't recognize, probably new, probably overpriced, sitting poolside with a margarita, the salted rim glistening like it had a better marriage than we did. And there, behind her shoulder, half out of frame, but not far enough, a man's shadow, elbows rested on the glass table, right arm curled in toward his lap like he was leaning in close. The caption, sometimes space brings clarity and better company. Sun cocktail glass. My thumb didn't shake, my jaw didn't lock, I just zoomed in twice. That shoulder, that wristwatch, that particular smug lean. Wade, of course. Freaking Wade, her just a friend from Phoenix. The one who used to work with her when she was still at the logistics firm. The one who sent her a Christmas card 4 years ago with the note. You always made the long days feel short. Love always. Wade. And the kicker, he accidentally signed it with a heart. She claimed it was just a printing error. That I was being dramatic. Paranoid. It's just a card. Harold. I'd almost believed her. But I'm a retired inspector, not a toddler. I knew the smell of bullshit before it entered the room. I screenshotted the photo. Not to confront her. Not to throw it in her face. I wasn't about to bark at a door she already slammed shut. I opened my files instead. Years ago, when we first put the house in trust, I built in what I jokingly called a silent ignition clause. If certain conditions were met, infidelity, abandonment, or say a public broadcast of marital humiliation, the trust could be triggered by a single signature and converted into exclusive control by me for the benefit of Karen. I hadn't looked at the paperwork in a while, but now I did. Every clause, every technicality, every silent, sterile safeguard I had built into it back when we still wore matching robes on Sundays. Wait, that man had always lingered like a spoiled smell. Now he was front and center, clinking glasses with my wife while she toasted to clarity. I opened a new tab. Email my attorney, subject line, initiate clause C, immediate. Attached, the screenshot. No message body, none needed. He replied 6 minutes later. Copy. I'll begin transfer procedures immediately, cold ignition. Everything shifted. Then the house would no longer be hers to come back to. The bills forwarded to my name, but the utilities in hers thanks to a form I updated online that morning. The garage code reset and the cherry on top. Her mail forwarded not to the Montana address I'd soon disappear to, but to a secure post office box registered under the trust name. She'd have to earn access to even read a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. I walked back into the bedroom she hadn't slept in for months and unhooked the oil painting she loved. Some abstract mess she claimed represented rebirth. I took it outside and leaned it next to the trash bin. Not destroyed, just irrelevant, like her promises, like her vows. I didn't feel vengeance. I didn't feel rage. Those are luxuries for people still trying to win. I wasn't playing anymore. She wanted better company. Let her keep it because soon she'd be keeping a whole lot more than she bargained for, including every single suitcase she left behind. The office hadn't changed. Same over-air-conditioned chill. Same leather chairs that tried to feel expensive, but ended up smelling faintly like mildew and printer toner. Harold sat across from Jean, the kind of lawyer who'd never smiled unprompted in 30 years, but could dismantle a financial corpse with surgical precision. Jean flipped through the binder. Clause C.3 triggered by public evidence of infidelity or spousal abandonment. He glanced up, adjusting his glasses. That Instagram post will suffice. Harold nodded once. No triumph, no gloating, just business. The trust had been drafted, a decade ago, under the guise of estate planning to protect Karen's future. What Valerie didn't realize was that it also protected Harold's dignity and his exit strategy. Clause C was never discussed out loud, not even with Valerie, especially not with Valerie. The trust was a living thing, dormant until disrespected, and she'd activated it with a cocktail and a caption. I'll start the legal filing. You'll receive the deed transfer confirmation within 48 hours, Jean said. Harold slid over an envelope with a check already signed. Make it 24. Done. By noon, their house, was no longer in her reach. Not legally, not emotionally, not even spiritually. Harold had filed the change of ownership paperwork through a shell-holding company tied to the trust. If Valerie ever tried to contest it, she'd have to get through a 6-layer firewall of LLCs and estate protections. Spoiler, she wouldn't. The home insurance terminated under his name, reissued under the trust. The joint credit card she never stopped using canceled and reissued as a solo card. On his end, he called the power company, then water, then internet. Everything flipped. Everything silenced except the soft rustle of trash bags filling up in the guest room. He spent that afternoon tagging every single item she'd left behind. Not angrily, precisely, like evidence in a sealed case. 3 monogrammed suitcases, 1 carry-on, a box labeled spa essentials filled with facial rollers and half-used creams, and 1 ridiculous beach hat with the word blessed stitched across the brim. Each one got a sticky note. Valerie G., do not discard. He lined them up by the front hallway. Not outside. Not yet. That came later, but they'd be waiting. He pulled the spare key from the bowl near the door, the one she used to call the marriage bowl, tossed it into a manila envelope, slid that into a lockbox with the realtor's name on it. He looked around the house. It was hollowing itself out, a wedding photo on the wall gone. The love seat she picked out because it felt like a hug donated. The echo was growing louder in every room, an echo of what had been rather than what was. Still, the most satisfying moment came when Harold opened the safe under the stairs. Inside was a file labeled Emergency Protocol Karen. He'd written it years ago, thinking maybe it would be for a fire, a health scare, or the unthinkable. But this was different. He updated one sheet, added today's date, and attached the screenshot of Valerie and Wade poolside, sipping betrayal in high definition. He resealed the folder and left it in the safe. No need to show it to Karen yet. She deserved truth, but not all at once. She'd know when it mattered. Then he returned to the kitchen and finished labeling the last box. It read, Miscellaneous Ghosts. He smiled at that one just slightly. Paperwork doesn't heal you, it doesn't hug you or whisper apologies. But it does something better. It protects you. It gives you a shield when the person you trusted most hands you a dagger. And now everything was activated. Everything she thought she could come back to was already gone. Karen pulled into the driveway slowly, her tires crunching over the grit that used to collect beneath Valerie's Lexus. The familiar sound of home, but home wasn't there anymore. Just a hollowing shell with taped boxes stacked like memorials in the garage. Harold met her outside before she could knock. She stepped out of her car and hugged him hard, tighter than usual. She really said she needed space from you, she asked, voice low like it physically hurt her to say it out loud. He just nodded. Karen's eyes scanned the porch. Her mom's garden chimes were gone. The chair cushions she used to hate were stacked by the trash. It was all happening too fast, and yet it felt like it had been coming for years. They walked inside together. The air inside was already different. You could smell departure. She stepped into the living room, stopped in front of the wall where the family photo collage had once hung, just nails and outlines remaining. You did all this in 5 days? Harold gave her a tight shrug. I've had practice being ignored. It makes you good with time management. It was the closest he'd come to a joke in weeks. She didn't laugh. Her mouth twisted, but it didn't reach her eyes. Karen walked from room to room, arms folded, taking it all in. The dining table she'd grown up eating at was already disassembled, chairs upside down like fallen soldiers. Her old bedroom had been cleared except for a folded letter on the nightstand. College memories probably. Maybe Harold thought she might want it. She sat down on the steps and looked at him. "Where are you going, Dad?" He stayed standing. "Montana." That surprised her. "Why Montana?" "I want mountains. I want quiet. I want a place where if someone needs space, they have to hike 2 miles just to find a signal." She stared at him for a moment. "You told Mom." "No. Are you going to?" He looked at the half-empty hallway where Valerie's bag sat prepped like unclaimed luggage at a bus terminal. "No." Karen nodded, then stood, walked over, hugged him again. "Then tell me, where exactly are you going? I'll keep it between us. Cross my heart." He pulled out a sticky note from his back pocket and handed it to her. She read it, an address with no zip code, just a cabin name and a dirt road description. "You're really doing this," she whispered. Harold didn't answer. She slipped the note into her wallet like it was a sacred map. "You're not alone." "Okay, I know," he said. Then she looked over at the suitcases again. "You want me to be here when she shows up?" "No." "You sure?" "Yeah," he said. "She needs to see the house alone. Feel it." Karen hesitated, then nodded. "If she calls me, I'm not answering. Not at first." Smart. They walked out to her car. Before she got in, she paused. "I don't think I ever saw you look this clear." Harold squinted at the sunlight. "It's amazing what happens when the fog lifts." Karen drove off, glancing back in the mirror only once. Harold didn't wave. He walked back into the house, past the boxes, past the memories, and sat in the single kitchen chair left behind. He poured himself a whiskey midday, unapologetic. For the first time since she sent that message, he wasn't reacting. He was just waiting. The guest room hadn't ever felt like a room. It was where forgotten towels went to die, where mismatched pillowcases lived out their exile, where holiday guests slept once every other year. And now it was Harold's sanctuary, at least for one last night. He didn't bother with the bed frame, just the mattress on the floor. No sheets, no frills. A single pillow that still smelled faintly like dust and lavender Valerie's doing. Of course she had a thing for sachets, said they softened the energy. Now the energy was stripped bare, just drywall, shadows, and silence. The house echoed with a hollowness he hadn't heard in years. A refrigerator door that creaked louder than usual. The hum of a water heater, now louder than conversation, had been for the past decade. He didn't cook dinner, just heated up a can of soup and ate it over the sink. Old habit from his bachelor days. Full circle, he guessed. Around midnight, he walked through each room with a mental checklist, not for things left behind, but to confirm he was really leaving. The living room empty, not even a rug. Kitchen barren. Aside from one stubborn spoon in the dishwasher he left deliberately like a fingerprint. Karen's room cleared out. Door left ajar, light bulb unscrewed just enough so it wouldn't flicker again like it had since 2009. And then the bedroom. Their bedroom. He hadn't stepped in it for a week, avoided it like a grave. But now he owed it one last glance. He entered without touching the doorframe. The bed was gone. Dresser, too. All that remained was a dusty circle where her Himalayan salt lamp used to sit and a single-frame photo on the wall. Their 25th anniversary, Lake Tahoe. Her in a blue shawl, him in a suit that barely fit. They were smiling. He walked up to it, took it down, stared. They weren't smiling because they were happy. They were smiling because they had guests taking the photo. You can always tell. He flipped the frame over and opened the latch. Slid the photo out. Put it into the box he labeled earlier. Donate the frame. He tossed it in the trash. Closure doesn't always come with a dramatic speech. Sometimes it comes with routine. With scissors cutting through duct tape, with the sound of a Sharpie labeling what used to be love as miscellaneous. By 5:30 a.m., the sun had started to blush against the horizon, a soft rose-colored warning that a new day had no intention of waiting for him. He stood in the foyer one last time. The light switch plate still had the chip from when Valerie dropped a blender box against it on move-in day. He used to joke they should fix it. Now he let it be. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the envelope. Inside keys, garage remote, instructions for the new owners. A note thanking them for their offer and wishing them a peaceful home. He walked outside. No ceremony. Placed the envelope in the mailbox, closed the lid, exhaled. Then he turned back, looked at the house, his house, for exactly 3 seconds. Not for nostalgia, not for regret, just confirmation that he was no longer tethered to it. No longer tethered to her. He slid into his car, turned the ignition, and pulled out of the driveway for the last time. Behind him, the house stood still. In front of him, a long, wind-whining road led north. Valerie breezed through customs like she always did. Lip gloss perfect, tan glowing. The kind of woman who made airport strangers think divorcee energy. even when she wasn't technically divorced yet. She texted Harold once mid-trip. "Just a casual, maybe we should talk when I get back." No response. She assumed he was sulking or pretending to be busy. Either way, she had her narrative ready. How she needed space to reevaluate and felt neglected and just wanted to be heard. She even rehearsed it in the cab. "I just wanted us both to grow." Translation: I had a fling with Wade and thought you'd wait quietly while I figured out if it meant anything. The driver took a wrong turn and Valerie snapped. "It's the beige house with the stone planters right on Larkpur. You'll see the succulents." But when the car slowed at the curb, her brow furrowed. Something was off. There were bags. Her bags lined up in a perfect row on the lawn like forgotten luggage at a hotel pickup. 3 monogrammed suitcases. 1 garment bag. Even her ridiculous Sedona hat, the one that said "Blessed" in cursive, rested like a crown on the smallest carry-on. The porch light gone. Just an empty bracket and a dangling wire. Her pulse jumped. Not fear, not yet. Just confusion wrapped in ego. She stepped out, heels clicking too confidently, and dragged one of the suitcases behind her. Walked up to the door and typed the garage code. Nothing. She frowned, then tried her key. Deadbolt didn't budge. He changed the locks. No warning, no drama. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, louder, nothing but bird song and a distant lawnmower. That's when a man across the street, khakis, visor, typical HOA gatekeeper, called out from his driveway. "You looking for the Garcus?" She blinked, mouth halfway open. "What? The Garcus? They moved in yesterday. Nice couple said they just relocated from Orange County." Her jaw locked. "This is 312. Larkpur was closed escrow 2 days ago. Moving truck came at dawn." She blinked again. This is my house." The man gave her a half-sympathetic smile. Guess not anymore. Then he turned and walked, back into his garage like it was just another Tuesday. Valerie stood frozen on the porch. Her phone was already in her hand, dialed to Harold. Voicemail. She tried again, straight, to voicemail. She tapped open her texts. Nothing but the old ones, unread. Then she called Karen. Karen answered barely. "Mom, Karen, I just got back and there are strangers in my house and my stuff is on the lawn." Karen didn't interrupt. She didn't sigh. She just waited like a judge waiting to deliver a sentence. "I said I needed space," Valerie snapped, her voice cracking. "Not exile." Karen's voice dropped a few degrees. "Then maybe you shouldn't have used Cabo as your confessional. I wanted to talk things through. You wanted a trial separation while you played house with Wade." Valerie froze. Karen continued. "You assumed Dad would just sit still. He didn't. And honestly, good for him." Then click, call ended. Valerie's hand fell to her side. Phone dangling, mouth dry. She sat on her suitcase. The tan she'd spent 8 days perfecting now looked ridiculous under the hard light of rejection. The neighbors were peeking, out windows. Curtains twitched. For the first time in years, Valerie had no script, no control, no audience. Just consequences. Valerie paced the sidewalk in front of the house that used to be hers. Barefoot now, her wedges abandoned in the grass beside her luggage. Sweat prickled along her collarbone despite the breeze. Her once effortless confidence had curdled into something brittle, twitchy, pathetic even. She tapped Harold's name again, straight to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. The tone alone was humiliation enough. She scrolled to Karen next, teeth clenched. Her hands were trembling now, though she'd never admit it. Not fear, she told herself. Frustration. She had questions. She deserved explanations. Karen picked up on the second ring. "Karen, I don't know what." "Mom," that voice flat, measured, already exhausted. "I just got here. And what the hell's going on? My things are outside, the locks are changed, there's a new family in the house. And they told me escrow closed. I never even knew." Karen didn't interrupt. She waited for the tantrum to bleed out. Valerie's voice cracked. "He can't just erase me." "Mom," Karen said again, softer, but somehow sharper. "I don't know what you expected. I expected a conversation. I expected we'd talk like adults. No, you expected to vanish for 10 days with Wade the Spa Buddha and come home to the same porch swing and doormat like nothing happened." Valerie's jaw dropped. It wasn't like that. Karen let out a dry laugh. "You posted a picture, a caption with clarity and better company. What did you think would happen? He'd paint the living room and thank you for the emotional growth. I said I needed space, not exile." Karen didn't hesitate this time. "Then maybe," she said, voice like sleep. "You should have booked round-trip clarity. Click. No goodbye, no warning. Just the sound of disconnection cutting cleaner than any blade." Valerie stared at her phone screen. She tried redialing, but it was pointless. Karen wouldn't pick up again. That door had closed, and not softly. She stood there for several minutes trying to slow her breathing as neighbors peeked out behind blinds with pity and judgment blurred into one expression. The new homeowners hadn't come outside yet. She wasn't sure if they were even home, but their car was there. Their porch plants were different. There was a child's bicycle by the garage. The life she'd once cultivated had been replanted, and she wasn't part of the garden anymore. She opened Uber. No rides available for 20 minutes. She was stuck on the curb like a forgotten guest at her own funeral. Valerie sat back down on her suitcase, legs crossed tightly, arms folded, eyes darting like a caged thing. Where was her power, her narrative? Where was the loving husband waiting with tea and questions, willing to forgive, willing to try? Gone. Gone like the utilities, the credit line, the door code. Gone like Harold, who it now dawned on her, hadn't left because she cheated. He'd left because she had already been gone for years. She just didn't notice until she found herself locked out. No one came to help, no one came to explain. Just the wind, a dog barking somewhere distant, and a row of suitcases whispering, "You did this, you left," and he believed you. She was still on the lawn when the Uber finally arrived, but she didn't get in. Something in her gut told her that escaping the street wouldn't fix what was now following her. So, instead of giving the driver a destination, she waved him off and sat back down on her suitcase, like it was a throne of ruined assumptions. Her phone buzzed, a calendar reminder. Harold, dentist, reschedule. She stared at it for a long time, like it had been written in a foreign language. Then, almost without thinking, she opened her browser and typed the address. Just to confirm something, anything, some version of events where this was all some mistake, a misunderstanding. Maybe the buyers were squatters. Maybe Harold had lost his mind. Maybe this was reversible. She clicked on a real estate link. The house appeared in crisp, staged lighting. Photos taken clearly after she left. Furniture she didn't recognize. Clean lines where their clutter once lived. Listing status sold finalized 3 days ago. Terms, cash, immediate possession, seller. H. Granger Trust. Her chest tightened. Trust. She scrolled down, scanning the fine print. Seller relocated for personal clarity. Property is now under new ownership. No contingencies. Clean exit. Motivated seller preferred solitude and peace. She blinked hard. That wasn't legal boilerplate. That was a message. She clicked the agent's name and followed the breadcrumb trail to a newsletter they'd written. Something fluffy for their high-end client base. It read, "Sometimes the cleanest sales come from the quietest exits. One of my latest clients chose peace over conflict. A retired gentleman with old-school dignity and a northern destination. He requested that all closing documents reflect his privacy." Attached was a blurry shot of a cabin in Montana. Mountains in the background, snow lingering on the pine. Below it, in smaller font, mail forwarding address on file. Cabin number 12B, Stillwater Ridge, empty. Care of H. Granger Trust. Valerie's breath caught in her throat. He was gone, not hiding, not seething, not waiting for her to crawl back, gone. The name of the trust, Granger, hit like a slap. That had been his grandfather's surname, one he never used unless something was serious, something was being locked down. He'd used it for the trust, for the account she was never listed on, the one she used to tease him about. "What's the point of planning for things that'll never happen?" she'd once said, sipping wine on their anniversary. Turns out the point was this. She tried to search more property records, any document that had her name on it. There was nothing, no joint anything, no co-owner, no appeal process. He hadn't just left. He prepared to leave years ago. The trust was only visible in public documents because it had to be for the sale. Everything else, his financials, his address history, even his phone number, had quietly vanished behind legal walls. She clicked to see the buyer documents. Nothing accessible. But under additional seller notes there was one single sentence. All remaining personal effects have been returned to their rightful owner. Her gaze slid back to the luggage. The tan lines on her feet started to sting. Her mouth was dry. She hadn't eaten in hours. And yet, none of that registered as real. All that registered was this. He had watched her walk away, and instead of chasing her, he had erased the path back. She thought she'd come home to a man waiting with disappointment. What she found was a void dressed as grace. A departure so clean, so calculating it felt less like rejection and more like surgery. No bleeding, no mess, just silence. The kind that means you're not welcome back. She didn't cry when she saw the bags. Didn't cry when the locks didn't work, not even when Karen hung up like she was swatting a fly. But something shifted when her fingers brushed against a small cream-colored envelope wedged between the handles of her largest suitcase. The one with the gold trim and her initials embossed like royalty. No postage, no name on the front, just there waiting like it had been waiting longer than she'd known. She slipped it out and stared at it for a full minute, her hand hesitant. She could already tell it was his handwriting. Height, even strokes, measured, practiced. The kind of handwriting you don't see in texts. The kind of handwriting you only use when you want the message to last. She unfolded the card. No greeting, no signature, just one sentence. You said you needed space. I gave it to you, all of it. No insult, no bitterness, not even a period at the end. Just distance. Clinical, surgical, final. Valerie's legs gave out before her denial did. She collapsed back onto the suitcase like her bones had quietly slipped away. Her eyes scanned the words again, as if some secret meaning might appear. A code, a joke, a hint that he'd left a key under the mat or a letter somewhere with a second chance. But there was none, just that line, that one line. You said you needed space, I gave it to you, all of it. And that's when she finally started to feel it. Not guilt, not regret, loss. The kind of loss that doesn't come from a single decision. It builds quietly. One forgotten birthday, one canceled dinner, one I'm tired tonight after another. She used to think Harold's silence meant passivity, that he wasn't fighting for her, that he'd given up. She hadn't understood. He wasn't surrendering. He was recording. Every dismissive glance, every dig dressed as a joke, every moment she chose distraction over connection, he took notes. He remembered. And when it was time, he acted without rage, without shouting, without needing permission. She wanted space. He handed her a borderless, ownerless, permanent silence. And now she couldn't yell over it, couldn't cry through it. There was no audience left. Just her, a grown woman with a 5-carat ring that meant nothing now, sitting on monogrammed luggage outside a house she used to own, reading a line that closed a chapter she didn't realize had ended months ago. For the first time in years, Valerie didn't feel powerful, or beautiful, or right. She felt what Harold had probably felt every night as she scrolled her phone and tuned him out, forgotten. And the worst part, he didn't slam the door on her. He just left it open long enough for her to realize it had always been her walking out.